stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening and welcome to the Bryan City Council meeting for Tuesday, October the 2nd, 2018. The mayor said she would like to make a little statement.
Yes, I would like to welcome everyone. We do have some new first-time attendees here. I would like to remind everyone that this is live broadcast on BMU TV, and if you have concerns, when we get to item 2, you will have to come up to the podium to give those. Now you may begin.
Okay.
Thank you.
First on the agenda this evening is the approval of the minutes from the September 17th, 2018 council meeting. Council, you should have those in front of you.
I move that we accept.
I'll second.
Rick?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Judy?
Yes. Next on our agenda is hearing of public concerns. Okay. Next is an ordinance. Lori, would you please number and read?
Ordinance number 34, 2018, an ordinance providing for the transfer of funds for the city of Bryan for the month ending October 31st, 2018. This is a transfer request of $400,000 from the 1% income tax fund to the 101 general fund for general spending purposes. A transfer of $60,000 from the 1% income tax fund to the 203 motor vehicle street department fund for general spending purposes. And a transfer request of $2,685 from the water fund to the 420 water main replacement fund, which was previously requested and approved of the Board of Public Affairs meeting earlier this evening. Total amount of transfer requested, $462,685.
I move to suspend.
I'll second.
John?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Judy?
Yes.
I move to adopt.
I'll second.
John?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Judy?
Yes. Next on the agenda is another ordinance. Lori, would you please number and read?
Ordinance number 35, 2018. An ordinance providing for annual appropriations for the city of Bryan for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2018, and declaring an emergency. This is an appropriation request for $200,000 in the revolving loan fund department for upcoming loans, and an appropriation request for $2,685 for the 420 water main replacement South Walnut East South Street project construction fund. Total amount of appropriations requested, $202,685. Again, this appropriation was previously approved at the Board of Public Affairs meeting earlier this evening.
Move that we accept.
Suspend.
Or suspend? Do we suspend?
Second.
Rick?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Judy?
Yes.
Move to adopt.
I'll second.
John?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Judy?
Yes. Next is a resolution. Lori?
Resolution number 26, 2018, a resolution to oppose Issue 1 and to seek public support in opposition to Issue 1, also known as the Neighborhood Safety Drug Treatment and Rehabilitation Amendment to the Ohio Constitution, and declaring an emergency.
Council?
Make a motion to suspend.
Before we do that, I do have a couple of things that I wanted to mention about this. First of all, I'm not sure why this is coming to council, but it's here and it's on our agenda. And what I wanted to mention about it was, if you look at and the reason I'm not sure it should be at council, I think this is an individual person's decision what they want to do. But my position on this, since they're asking my opinion by bringing the resolution to the table, is a no vote on this is asking that we basically leave things the way that they are and everything. A yes vote on this is asking that we are going to make nonviolent acts a misdemeanor. It's going to, and the idea behind this is, with the drug trafficking and all of that, is that the money that would normally go to housing people in jails would go for rehabilitation. And I think that that idea is a good idea in theory, but I think in practicality that it is awful. I think that this issue is a terrible issue. I think that it is something that, again, is meant in good faith, but people that don't want to be rehabilitated will not be rehabilitated. You can't force them to do that, and that's what's being asked in this. And so I just wanted to throw that out there. As far as my position on this is, it is an awful issue.
The reason that it's before you is because we are asking for your combined support and to let the public know that we need to seek a no vote on this, because not only is it, I believe, a poor amendment to our Constitution, it will not be able to be fixed by our legislature if there are issues with it, and it is also going to put a great financial burden on not only my office, but on the municipal court. If I could read, if you don't mind, I would like to read this resolution in full. And then also, I have a letter from our Supreme Court Justice that I'd like to read, if that's okay. So the resolution reads, whereas Issue 1 purports to provide mental health and addiction service to drug offenders, and while the language of the amendment sounds positive, the plan behind it is detrimental to the citizens of Bryan and the state of Ohio. Whereas if Issue 1 should pass, 4th and 5th degree felony drug charges would be reduced to a misdemeanor, the sanctions of which may not exceed those of a 1st degree misdemeanor, and for the first and second conviction within a 24-month period, the sanction shall not exceed probation. Additionally, an individual who is already on felony probation shall not be sent to prison on a probation revocation for non-criminal violations of the terms of their probation. And further, any individual who is already convicted of possessing, obtaining, or using a drug or drug paraphernalia but has not completed their sentence may petition the court to be resentenced or released. Whereas Issue 1 would also violate Ohio's truth in sentencing, as it would allow 1/2 day of credit to an incarcerated individual for every day that they participate in appropriate rehabilitative work or educational program, up to a maximum of 25% of the individual's stated sentence. Whereas Issue 1 is opposed by the Common Pleas Judges Association, the Ohio Supreme Court Judge Maureen O'Connor, the Ohio Chief Probation Officers Association, the Ohio Municipal League, and the Ohio State Bar Association. Therefore, be it resolved by the Bryan City Council, 4/5 of its members to occurring, the Bryan City Council joins the courts, the state law enforcement agencies to oppose Issue 1, the Neighborhood Safety Drug Treatment and Rehabilitation Amendment to the Ohio Constitution, which will be on Ohio's ballot on November 6, 2018. The Bryan City Council encourages the citizens of Bryan to join in opposing Issue 1 by voting no on Issue 1 on November 6, 2018. And this is a letter that I think gives a good example of what we would be looking at should Issue 1 pass. This is a letter from the Supreme Court of Ohio by Maureen O'Connor, Chief Justice. Too many people in our criminal justice system are there because of substance abuse disorders. This is undeniable. We know that substance abuse disorders are a major driver in criminal justice spending. We also know that through long-term treatment and therapy, those addicted can lead law-abiding, productive lives. Issue 1 on Ohio's November 6 ballot purports to address this problem by reducing drug possession penalties and directing the savings from reduced incarcerations to expanded drug treatment and resources for crime victims. A superficial reading of Issue 1 could lead voters to see it as a thoughtful, compassionate, and reasonable response to a difficult and intractable problem. It seems so until you peel back its layers and see that it will have catastrophic consequences for our state. If Issue 1 passes, Ohio may have some of the most lenient drug crime laws in the nation. We could easily become a magnet for substance abuse activity because there will be, in effect, very little consequence to engaging in such behavior. Let me put the issue in context by explaining just one of Issue 1's consequences as it relates to possession of fentanyl, a lethal opioid. According to the Ohio Department of Health, ODH, drug overdose poisoning deaths in Ohio increased from 3,050 in 2015 to 4,050 in 2016. This is roughly 4 times the number of people who die in traffic accidents in Ohio annually. The Ohio Department of Health reported that 58.2% of the overdose deaths in Ohio in 2016 involved fentanyl, compared with only 4% in 2013. This dramatic rise is due to the fact that fentanyl is 50 times more potent than heroin. According to U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration, it takes just 2 milligrams of fentanyl, an amount barely able to cover Abraham Lincoln's beard on a penny, to kill the average person. Fentanyl is addictive, lethal, and simple to manufacture. It is easy to smuggle into our country from foreign sources, even using express mail envelopes. Its potency is not just a problem for abusers, it can be absorbed through the skin, putting freight handlers and first responders at serious risk. Issue 1 would make the possession of powdered fentanyl in amounts less than 20 grams a misdemeanor with only probation as a consequence. This means that a drug offender caught with less than 20 grams walks away with no possibility of jail time. Since the lethal dose of fentanyl is just 2 milligrams, 1/1000th of a gram, 19 grams of fentanyl is enough to kill approximately 10,000 people. So if Issue 1 passes, an offender charged with possession of 19 grams of fentanyl would automatically get probation and could only be charged with a misdemeanor. Issue 1 does this by constitutionally dictating that any drug possession conviction that is now a felony 4 or felony 5 would be reduced to a misdemeanor. The requirement of probation ties the hands of the judge when it comes to sentencing. The judge must sentence an individual to probation for these offenses under Issue 1. This is unconscionable. Drug dealers would be incentivized to distribute fentanyl in amounts less than 20 grams, so those caught possessing it could avoid incarceration. The lack of consequences for fentanyl possession is shared with the possession of other lethal drugs, cocaine, K2, meth, and heroin among them. Across the range of illegal substances, many current felonies would become misdemeanors. Who wouldn't want to set up their drug distribution business in Ohio, knowing that possessing 19 grams of fentanyl or lethal amounts of other drugs would result only in a first-class misdemeanor with mandatory probation? The adoption of Issue 1, I predict, would have other devastating consequences, severely hampering the use of our very effective drug court program across this state. Drug courts would be impeded by taking jail time off the table. We know through multiple studies that drug courts are effective only when they combine the carrot of treatment and the support with the stick of judicial accountability, including incarceration when needed. It is this carrot and stick approach that enables judges and drug court teams to use a variety of tools to help people overcome addiction. But Issue 1, while providing a lot of carrot by expanding treatment, takes away the stick. We are not talking about possession of marijuana. We are talking about Ohio becoming, in effect, unable by its constitution to offer drug court participation and to incentivize that involvement by the carrot of not having a felony conviction record. Who would want to participate in a drug court program knowing that they only face probation for possession of fentanyl, cocaine, methamphetamine, K2, heroin, and so forth? I predict that we will see a severe drop-off in drug court participation at the very moment when it is needed the most, should voters approve Issue 1. To make matters worse, Issue 1 would freeze our criminal drug offense laws in time. It expressly mandates that its provisions be implemented based on the laws in effect on January 1st, 2018. Our General Assembly couldn't, by passing a statute, fix anything that's wrong with Issue 1. Our elected leaders could not pass laws to contradict Issue 1, laws meant to keep us safe. Another constitutional amendment would be necessary to repeal or modify the Issue 1 constitutional amendment. This would take another statewide election. Keep in mind that special interest groups spent more than $4 million to put Issue 1 on the ballot. Those special interest groups will fully fund a campaign before this November's election that will try to mislead and confuse you regarding Issue 1. Please don't be fooled. Do your homework on Issue 1. The proponents of Issue 1 seek to address a very real problem in our criminal justice system, the impact of substance abuse on our society and our criminal justice system. But by taking a hammer to that problem, the proponents have set Ohio on a dangerous course to adopting some of the most lenient drug laws in the country. It would limit the ability of the state to confront very real dangers now and in the future in battling substance abuse. It may be very well intentioned in its design, but its passage would gravely endanger Ohioans. It would be devastating in its effect. Signed, Maureen O'Connor, Chief Justice, the Supreme Court of Ohio.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My assumption would be because of our location that we would be even more affected because of our relationship to Ohio, or to Michigan and Indiana.
Sure.
We
And the
are a
turnpike.
pathway. That is correct.
And so to answer your question, the reason that it's on, again, is because it does affect us locally here as a municipality with the tax dollars that we would have to invest, with the misdemeanor criminal charges that Rhonda does handle for us.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Can make my
You can make your motion.
motion to suspend.
I'll second.
Mary?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Judy?
Yes.
Thank you.
Move to approve?
I'll second.
Rick?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Judy?
Yes. Next is an ordinance. Lori?
Ordinance number 36, 2018, an ordinance authorizing the clerk treasurer to issue change order number 1 for the project known as 2018 Recreation Park Pedestrian Pathway to extend the substantial and final completion date to September 19th, 2018.
Mr. Whalen?
Good evening. You're all aware of the sidewalk project we had going on in the park there. Just a little history on it. It was bid late in the spring, early summer. The construction documents had a completion date of July 27th. And he was authorized, he could start, I think it was July 2nd is what we told him he could start. So he had 4 weeks there that he could actually do the project. We went through the prevailing wage report saying in July of the 4 weeks, 6, 7, 8, 9, he had worked 10 days out of the possible 20, plus the weekends, I guess, is 24 days. And he only had 1 rain day in there that he could ask for an extension for. I'd met Drew, who was one of the partners on the project, on July 27th, which was his last day of the project. And I served him a letter and put him on notice that his contract was up. And I asked him, I said, how much time do you need? And he says, 2 weeks. I need 2 weeks, Brian. And I told him, I said, well, I says, if you show up every day, you work hard to get it done. I said, things happen. We understand. You know, we can work with you, and I'll talk with City Council and see if we can extend your completion date because, you know, I mean, there's liquidated damages that can occur from this point on. And he said, yep, not a problem, not a problem. We documented the days that he worked. 2 weeks turned into almost 8 weeks of construction time, and actually 9 weeks until he actually got the project completed, which was actually just last Friday was when he finished seeding. But we consider the project substantially complete September 19th, which was the last day that he had poured concrete. So with that, I'm just doing the math here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 7.5 weeks past his completion date. So I guess you guys have a decision you have to make here on whether you guys feel it's okay to extend the completion date 7.5 weeks on a 4-week project, or whether you don't approve the request and authorize the city attorney and I to start pursuing liquidated damages on the project. I've never pursued liquidated damages before, but again, it's not my decision, it's your decision. And
So if I have my dates correct, the original start date was July 2nd.
July 2nd.
The scheduled completion date was on or before July 27th.
That's what the contract document stated.
And Drew asked for 2 additional weeks. We granted him the additional weeks, which would give us a completion date of August 10th.
You didn't grant anything.
Yeah.
I told Drew, if he can get it done in 2 weeks and we don't have any issues, I would come to City Council and plead on his behalf and ask you to approve the 2-week extension, which we have before in the past. We've had several contractors, Gherkin Paving, we've extended their completion date. Zimmerman Paints, we've extended their completion date a week or 2 because of rain. Now granted, Gherkin Paving, when we did the High Street project, that was a 12-week project or 14-week project, and they ran a week over. So you guys just need to try and justify, is 7 weeks on a 4-week project okay versus 1 week on a 14-week or whatnot.
But even with Drew's requested 2-week extension, we'd be looking at a completion date of August 10th.
August 10th, correct.
And we did not complete for over a month after.
The last pour was Wednesday, September 19th.
Okay. Is there reasoning behind that you're aware of?
I'm not aware other than just, when I met him, he was about 10% done with the project on the 27th. He had had maybe 3 or 4 pours done. I think he was struggling.
10%?
I'm assuming 10 to 15% complete after the 4-week time frame. And I was kind of surprised when he said he could have it done in 2 weeks, but I thought, well, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. And I think I talked to Judy, you walk through there every day, and you commented on the days they're there and the days they're not there working.
Days I would be out there walking and they were nowhere in
Right.
sight.
Now, granted, in July, there were 2 rain days. On July 20th, they had 94 hundredths of an inch of rain, and on Saturday, the 21st, there was 59 hundredths of an inch of rain. And I don't know where that rain fell, whether it fell in the morning or the afternoon or evening, so, sometimes rain does take into consideration, those are days that they can't work. We can consider that. If you guys do not approve their contract extension, the city attorney and I can sit down and figure out the liquidated damages and figure rain days, which I've also looked at here already, August and September. I've had 40, let's see here, 10, 8. I had 8 rain days that we received more than 1/4 of an inch of rain. Now, again, I don't know if that rain came first thing in the morning or not, but there was 8 days that we did receive that out of the 2 months in there. So that's something that if we do liquidate, we would consider waiving those days as dates that they couldn't work. Now, there were 2 days in here we looked at the payroll reports today on August 16th and 17th. They did work both those days. The 16th, the National Weather Service said we had 46 hundredths of an inch of rain, and on the 17th, we had 71 hundredths. Now, again, that could have been at 2 in the morning, but they did work those days. So if you do the 1/4 to 1/2 inch minimum rainfall and they get a free day, they ended up working on that day. So, there's a lot of things we'll have to consider if you don't approve the extension, and we actually have to do liquidated damages.
Counsel? My opinion is we went above and beyond, waiting on them to finish.
Can I say something?
Yes. Would you please come up to the podium, because we can't hear if you don't. Could you state your name for us, please?
My name is Franz Wright, and I'm a partner in the DNF Enterprise. And I'm here to plead leniency. We have definitely struggled on this job, there's no question about it. We've definitely ran far behind, and we had significant labor problems trying to get qualified personnel to do a good job for you guys. It's one thing to just pour concrete, but the end product is what we want. We want a safe sidewalk. We want a sidewalk that's ADA compliant. It's just not following the lay of the land, have settling water on the sidewalk, having the right camber. It definitely was more than we bargained for. We did not give up on the job.
Did you not know this when I'm sure you come out and checked everything out before you bid the job, correct?
Yes, we did. And, initially it was presented that we're just going to go by the lay of the land. But after looking at the lay of the land and kind of doing all the necessaries to make sure that it was safe. I think that's the main thing. I'm not trying to justify the time. We know we took too long. And all I'm here to do is to ask for leniency on your guys. The job is done, and I think it looks great. We've had hundreds and hundreds of compliments on how well it looks and how it was needed. And I see people using it even before we were done with it. And, every single solitary day, if you're by the park. And I was up there yesterday evening picking up stuff and just making sure that it, as it is, the wind was up there blowing stuff around, and we actually went back up there and even did some reseeding and restrawing just to, in good faith to show that we stuck it out.
Now, Mr. Wright, you were talking about some labor problems. Were those communicated with either Mr. Wieland or anyone else involved with the city at any time?
Well, I guess we should have said something, but, you know, we know we're responsible to do the job, so I figure it was on us to find laborers to complete the job, and it was a hard struggle because, you know, you're up against the big companies that, you know, our whole labor force was just wiped out in one swoop, right? And right after July 4th weekend, we had 4 guys that worked with us for a long time. They just went to work for a bigger company. They were doing a big job, and they just took them all. And ever since that, we've been struggling. You
What
know,
what do you mean when you say the lay of the land? I don't understand what you're saying, the lay of the land, when you went out and looked at this. Because I know it was pretty flat, other than that one dip in the corner. But the
As I
rest of
say, I'm
it,
not-
because they had just finished the park and you had just finished the street. So it was very, very well done, and this is pretty darn flat, I would think.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's not like
It's not.
mountains, right.
It's not. You know, as I say, I'm not trying to justify. All I'm doing is pleading leniency. That's all I'm doing. It took us way too long, and we're a very small startup company, and we're just trying to get into the whole process. And I think the most important thing was to get the job completed and done right. And I think we did a pretty good job at that. It took us a while longer, but you know, I'm just here to plead leniency, and that's basically, I'm not here to try to justify the time, because we all can see the time was too long. You know, I'm just
Way too long.
asking for you guys to just grant us the extension so we can survive. This is a big deal to our company, you know, just to have done the job. We really appreciate Bryan taking a chance with us. I know it took too long, but I know at the end of the day, you got a good product, you know.
I think what I'm upset about is when we gave you the second chance and you said 2 weeks and it still wasn't done in 2 weeks.
It's
you know.
the struggle of the labor force.
Well, I
It's-
understand
The
that,
labor
but-
is all it is. It's not the technical know-how or any of that. It's just keeping,
But you didn't always show up either, because I was out there. So I was, you know, when Bryan told me, because I got after him a couple times, and I said, where are they? They're supposed to be out here working. I know, he said. And he says I gave them 2 more, they said they would have it done in 2 more weeks. And when I would be out there to walk, there wasn't a soul in sight.
Mr. Wright, were there any other mitigating factors besides labor?
labor is the most
significant?
It's the most significant thing. You know, pouring cement is, as you can imagine, it's a very hard job. Not everyone knows how to do it. Cement only gives you one chance and a few minutes to get it right. Us trying to get it done, and it wouldn't work. As they could tell you, there's parts of it that we had to redo because it wasn't to the specification. And as a result of that, we wanted to make sure that henceforth we got it right.
So it wasn't equipment availability or conflict of other jobs?
No. We wish that we could have just done it ourselves and didn't need anybody else who would have got it done. You know, it's just that you need labor to do it. And, you know, I know that you guys are upset with us because we took so long, but I'm just here to plead leniency on that. It's just not, we didn't do this willfully, and we didn't do this because we were neglecting the job in any way. You know, if you have 2 guys to come out and do the work, it's not going to do when you're pouring 10 yards of cement. You know, you need 4 to 6 guys, or you know, to do that. So it's hard, and we struggled through using that amount of people because we just wanted to keep going forward. You know,
How long has your company been in business, may I ask?
just been in business for a year now.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Counsel?
No, and I will concur with him. There were some areas that were fairly poor, and he did remove them and take them out under warranty, which
pay me now or pay me later. He's got a year warranty on it, so, he did repair those sections, but, again, it's up to you guys. The contract is a contract. Whether or not I run short on staff here at work, I might have to stay late and get things done myself, but that's, up to you guys again. I'm not the final authority. I can only tell you what the facts I have, and again, the contract is complete.
So was there communication that they weren't going to be showing up, or they just didn't show up?
It just didn't show up.
I'd have to ask Patrick on that. There were some days that Patrick had said he went out there expecting them to show up and they weren't there. Now granted, I think they were farther south than us and maybe they might have had rain down there and we didn't, or vice versa. I don't know, but I do know in the month of July, like I said, we documented here, the whole first week of July, before the 4th, they didn't show up at all. 2 guys showed up the 9th and the 10th and excavated, and then they weren't there Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and they came back the next week, and again, there was no rain. They came back the next week and worked, 2 guys worked the 16th, 2 the 17th, and 2 the 18th, and they didn't work the 19th, 20th, or 21st again, so it was kind of in spurts.
Ben, I believe, unless I'm out of it, it ended there at the softball field, correct?
Yes,
sir. Do we have any other need for further?
we have the whole park designed.
Not till the road's done.
Yeah,
But once the road is done?
the whole park is laid out. We have a master plan.
That side over there is once the road is redone. The side towards the tennis court and imagination station has no bearing on the road. It's just from Center Street back would be where we ended at Field 5 would be contingent on how the road ends up when we redo.
Next time you're up, ask us to see the plan.
Okay.
It's all printed out.
Very interesting.
And ready to go.
Do you understand where I'm going with this? As long as you do, I don't care if anybody else does or not, actually.
We're just at the point where we need to wrap this project up,
Okay.
and we just need to decide whether we're going to extend this completion date or not. Whether we ask for more work to be done somewhere else or whatnot, it's kind of a moot point. The contract document says it's a $500 a day penalty, $500 per calendar day.
How many days?
Well, there was
6 weeks?
36.
30 days?
He was 54 days late till substantial completion, and then it was another 9 days after that until he had it seeded. But again, there's some rain days in there, and I don't feel, even though the contract says per calendar day, I don't feel right nixing them on a Sunday.
Right.
So that's where, if you don't offer this extension, the city attorney and I need to sit down and see what's a fair
Number of days.
form of liquidated damages.
I get that. Do you have any general thought, estimate-wise, 50 days, 40 days?
Around 40 days.
That's what I'm looking for, so that's I am not holding him to those days, by the way.
We had,
Just, okay, about
there
40
were
days.
there were 8 Sundays and holidays, there were 8 rain days. There was more than a quarter inch of rainfall from the National Weather Service.
And what was the total cost of the project?
112.
Which was donated by Bryan Area Foundation.
40 days.
A fair amount of it was, correct.
Yeah, a large portion of it, sorry.
40 days comes to
But not all.
20,000.
But when you originally had 4 weeks to do the project, and it took another 60 days on top of that to do that, and I'm just using round numbers.
Okay.
Again, it makes me no difference. I've asked you to extend the completion dates, I've asked you not to before. It's not my call at all. I'm just presenting you with the facts, and one of the owners presented you with his side of the case, and we're leaving the ball in your lap.
If council goes ahead and does not extend these dates, does council have some input into the next phase?
How much we can,
When we budget.
How much and other alternatives?
As far as next year's construction projects,
Both. How much and
I think
next year?
Well, there's guidance
what you're
in our budgets.
asking is, if you say, no, we're not going to pass this ordinance for the completion date extension, then you want to know if you get to say how much we go back on the liquidated damages?
Not so much how,
many
input.
days?
I wouldn't, because it sounds more dictatorial, which I would not do.
I'll take guidance from a council member any day.
Okay.
If you want to come talk to me.
Okay.
I don't have a problem with that.
Okay. That answers it well
And I
enough for
think,
me.
the original conversation was fair that even though we could charge for Sundays,
Sure.
he didn't count that.
Sure.
You can't buy concrete on
Open or
Sundays.
Sure.
concrete.
And I think the other side of that balance of fairness has to do with consistency. You have to remember how many contracts we do with other people that this would could potentially set a bad precedent. So it's kind of a balance piece.
Well,
So
and there were other bidders on this job, too.
Yeah, no, I
Very similar price. I think the second low bidder was, I mean, it was $4,000 or $5,000
Right.
different.
No, I get it.
Close.
I get it.
It was extremely close. I mean, there were 3 or 4 other bidders there that said they could get it done in the same time frame. And again, I've never not asked you to extend a completion date. But in every single one of those cases, it's been weather. And there's been a couple cases that I came to you, I think even this year once, with the sewer project. I said,
Yes.
I told the contractor not to work.
Right.
I asked him not to work because the conditions weren't right, and I'm asking council to offer an extension for that project. I remember. So if I asked for it, then, that's a little different. But again, I understand the contractor's concerns, and I feel bad for him. I know labor is tough to come up with. It really is. I do understand that, but it's not my decision. I can only offer my recommendations.
I think too, thank goodness there wasn't another project we were waiting for this to get finished before we could start.
Correct.
And we had other contractors waiting to start.
In a sense, there was,
been bad.
maybe not projects, but there were activities in the park.
Right.
We had a firm schedule from day one. Ben and we talked about this project
When
for
to do it.
months, trying to figure out when's a good time to do it.
Yeah.
You know when the best time to do it was? January.
Right.
But you can't pour concrete in January.
No, I remember you
So
coming
Ben and
to
we went back and forth over and over again, and we said,
So
you have to do it in this 4-week time frame, and
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, counsel, what do you want to do?
Well, I move to suspend the resolution which states not to extend, is that correct? Yeah.
But I don't, if you want to authorize the approval of it, I think you need to pass it. Rhonda, if they don't want to offer it, do they just not act on it?
There's no reason to extend if your motion is to
Not
deny
accept.
To deny the extension.
Okay.
Okay, so we either need a motion to deny the extension or a motion to suspend the rules and authorize this to go through.
Then I retract and go with a motion to deny the extension.
I'll second.
John,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Judy.
Yes,
Okay,
thank you.
it's a first for me, but we'll work with the city attorney and come up with a fair, legal approach for how many days we feel comfortable doing liquidated damages, and we'll let you all know.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
I'd like to
I
just
feel bad,
interject.
but
I'd
I
like
just,
something.
we have to run a city,
We don't have the resources to do it.
and I understand that, but we have to run a city. We have to do what's good for our city.
Thank you.
Okay. Next is Chief Siders.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Reed Thompson has recently completed his hazardous materials technician certification, and in accordance with the volunteer pay ordinance, Reed is entitled to a increase in his pay, and I would ask that council approve that this evening.
So move.
I'll second.
John,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Judy.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay. Chief Willis?
Council Officer Mason Zook has completed his 3 years of full-time service with the police department effective October 6, 2018. And in accordance with the contractual agreement, his wages should be adjusted to a 3-year rate. I ask council to approve this adjustment.
So move.
I'll second.
John,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Judy.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, we shall go around the room. Mr. Dominic? Chief Siders?
No, ma'am, I'm sorry.
Mr. Whalen?
Thank you.
BMU? Okay. Mr. Weingart? Okay. Mr. Betts?
Yeah, just a couple of things, and I'm going to try and do them in 5 minutes. You can start a clock if you'd like. First, as it, and just kind of give me one of these shots. First, I'd like to elaborate a little bit on my rationale for voting with my fellow council members on not supporting issue 1. I do believe this is an appropriate place for it based on the implications that it has for our municipality. I also have 44 years, that's almost a half century, folks, in working in rehabilitation, okay? That's a lot of time spent with a lot of people that have mental health issues and addiction issues, okay? Not 44 days, 44 years, okay? So I started at Lima State, I'm not gonna go through my resume, but I started at Lima State Hospital, some very nasty people in a very nasty situation in Department of Corrections, went on to juvenile detention issues and juvenile family issues, and then for the last 35 years in a mental health, very large mental health organization working with addiction and mental health. I have an LP, a licensed professional clinical counselor with supervision, and a PhD, all but the dissertation in cognitive psych. So I would therefore like to elaborate on my rationale. You're probably thinking, what? For voting with my fellow council members and not supporting issue 1, which I would like summarized and reflected in the council minutes in case it comes up in the future, and I can give this to you, Lori, if you'd like. Though I do have 44-year history in working in the social service field, applying the benefits of mental health and addiction services, I totally support drug treatment as a more effective approach than incarceration. Seen it happen too many times positively. However, the reason I'm not supporting this specific issue basically are threefold. 1, I do not believe this is a constitutional amendment. I totally agree with that. I believe that is not the place for this because of the changes, as our attorney already has pointed out. I do not believe it was crafted in such a manner to assure and maximize a local treatment option. I believe that very strongly. And then the third piece I needed, I got, and not just locally, so if you hear these terms, it's not just locally. After consultation with lawyers and judges in the area, that's good enough. The consensus, actually it was more than consensus, that's not true. To the person, response was this issue will not, I repeat, not assist them in their current drug courts already established, which I already had been working with for the last number of years. In fact, they actually stated it may become more problematic. I therefore look forward to a better crafted bill which more specifically addresses this disease without making it a constitutional amendment. I'm done with that one, thank you. BMU, I'd like to give them kudos. People perhaps noticed that we had a little bit of a hiccup yesterday, and I do say it was a little bit of a hiccup. I've been asked a number of times, and it was just explained to me very well by the Director of Utilities there as to what happened, doing changeovers that are to make our city even better. They had to go to two different things going into one different thing, and then due to some undocumented, I believe was the comment, wiring, that there were some problems with that, which knocked us out. But my issue was, and I can explain that to the people that asked, but my issue was, it was like 15, 20 minutes. Really? I don't need to tell you the city, I actually probably already have, the city that I lived in. You're talking in terms of multiple hours and days, and in one particular case, a week. So kudos to BMU for, I think, living in this environment where they are that good, and I mean that with all sincerity, Kevin and BMU. Ms. Lori, you're not done with this. City of Bryan earns award for clean audit. That is not easy. Been in administration for a number of decades. It is extremely difficult. I think, as the paper pointed out, There were like 6 in the state of Ohio. The amount of work that she and her people put in, I appreciate her saying the council, I appreciate that. I don't take any credit for that. It starts with her and her folks and doing things right, and I think they should be absolutely more than patted on the back. That is not easy. That is very difficult, and yeah, very appreciative. Very appreciative.
Thank you.
Another piece, I know it's maybe a little out of character. I certainly hope I'm not embarrassing anyone, but I did want to congratulate Rhonda and John on their 25th. I never realized that you were that stunning. I certainly know that you are stunning, and you're a very nice lady, and John's a very nice looking. It's a very nice picture. But I want to congratulate you on 25 years. You're very welcome. Last but not least, I'm probably in the 8-minute range. I apologize. Miss
Time I'm setting the timer, Ms.
Mary Leatherman, Quanine of the Year.
3 years in a row.
3 years in a row.
3 years in a row. Excuse me. I'm sorry. 3 years in a row.
Really need to get to somebody else.
So I'm very appreciative of working with people of this caliber. Now I'm done. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Congratulations, Lori, and thank you, BMU, for making my Monday go a little bit better. And that's all I have. Go ahead.
I have just a couple of things. The first thing that I would like to mention is Mr. Wright. That was probably one of the most difficult decisions that I've ever had to make on council, and having been a small business owner myself, I certainly understand where he's coming from. The second item that I have is I was going to congratulate the clerk's office on their clean audits. That was very well done.
Thank you, sir.
And last but not least, the 15th of October, Four County Career Center is having their 50th anniversary celebration at 6 o'clock in the evening. Please come out and take a look around and talk to people. And approximately 25% of the people in Northwest Ohio have gone through Four County Career Center, and so that's a lot of people. And we certainly welcome you to come out and take a look around and visit us and talk. And even if you've never been in the building before, please come out and take a look around and find out what we're all about. That's all I have.
What time is it? What time's it for county?
The 6 o'clock.
Okay. Lori?
Thank you. I just want to say that it does take a city to get that clean audit. From the department heads, my staff do a tremendous amount of work, and it's very behind the scenes. We're never the ones with the lights, the sirens, the guns in the spotlight, and I really appreciate what they do. But it does take a board and council. They present us with budgets. They live and die by those numbers, and we have to follow all the Ohio Revised Code requirements, and it takes department heads watching every nickel. It takes the council and board supporting the decisions that they make. And I'm really proud that we've done it, and this is 8 years in a row, and it's been a big deal for our office. It helps us with our loan requirements when we go out for loans and borrowing situations, as well as other factors, of course, but that clean audit means a lot to the city. So thanks to everybody who helps with it.
Rhonda?
Just thank you for the comment, and thank you for the opposition to issue 1. It is going to be a significant change if it passes. It will make a significant impact on my office, also on our probation department, and finances and costs for our taxpayers. Thank you.
Mayor?
I would last but not least like to congratulate Lori and her staff on their 8th perfect audit. We are very proud to have her and her crew in the city, keeping us all in line, right, gentlemen? Yes. There is an electronics recycling event October 18th at the Bryan Community Center on Buffalo Road. That runs from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. A lot of people do ask about these because they recycle computers, small kitchen appliances, fax machines, portable heaters, backup batteries. The only thing that they do not take is the old-style Ray tube computer monitors, CRTV sets, and any items with refrigerants. Flat screens are acceptable. So that again is from 2 to 4 on October 18th at our community building. That is being sponsored by the Williams County Health Department, Williams County Soil and Water Conservation, and Oberlin Recycling. It was mentioned earlier at the Bryan Municipal Utility meeting that they are going to have Public Power Week October 7th through the 13th. They're going to have an open house on October 9th from 3 to 7 at our power plant, which is at 610 East Wilson Street. They will have electric and water demonstrations, hot dogs and popcorn, giveaways, power and water plant tours. The trucks will be on display, and you can see the 1948 Nordberg run from 5 to 6 p.m. Is that accurate, Mr. Maynard? 5 to 5:30. Good to know. They're also going to do some water plant tours, correct, in small groups. So if you have the opportunity, please do go out and visit. I actually have the cutest individual pictures of the 3 Schlade children from a few years ago, wearing the belt and pretending to climb up a pole. So good time for the kids too if you want to bring your whole family out. And I think
it'd be a cuter picture if Kevin was doing that. But
I think we'll get that done this year, Mr. Betts. I just wanted to speak for a few minutes. I know the Bryan Times did a really great job of covering where I was last Wednesday, but I was privileged enough to be invited down to Columbus to visit with a lot of leaders within Ohio Department of Natural Resources and the Ohio EPA. I was a guest of State Representative Jim Hoops and Ron McCauley. Brian Davis, our county commissioner, was also in that group, as well as Jim Watson, who has become kind of an expert for me on well drilling. And we had almost a 2-hour meeting with them. We have a lot of questions that seem to be answered for now. I can go in more depth with you, the committee, or with you individually on what the requirements and permitting process will be, but it will not be a short process. And we'll just, reevaluate as we need to as what the next steps are in our opposition.
Okay. I think at the next meeting, I'm going to go first, because everything I wanted to say, everybody's already said. So, just congratulations to all of you on different things that you've accomplished, but they're all great and they're all wonderful. I also feel bad, like Mr. Hoopy, about the decision we had to make on the sidewalk, but I think we went above and beyond the call of duty to give them time to finish the job. So we have to answer to the citizens of this town and this city, and I think that's what we're trying to do. So with that, we will take a slight recess. We're going to go into executive session for the purpose of imminent litigation. So thank you all for coming. Have a good evening.
Hey, Mr. Betts.